Don't believe the hype about Venezuela. This wasn't about Maduro. It wasn't about drugs. And it definitely wasn't about justice. At 2:01 a.m. on January 3, 2026, American helicopters touched down inside a military compound in Caracas. Within 30 minutes, President Nicolas Maduro, a man who had survived sanctions, coups, protests, and international isolation, was in handcuffs, being flown toward an American aircraft carrier. But this operation was never about him. This was about China. What you just witnessed was the opening move of a new era in American foreign policy. Welcome to the Donroe Doctrine. And if you think this is just Trump playing tough for his base, you're missing the bigger picture. This may be the most consequential shift in U.S. strategy since the Cold War. The silent takeover. While America was busy bleeding treasure and credibility in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Ukraine, something profound happened in its own backyard. China didn't invade Latin America. It bought it. In 2000, China's trade with Latin America stood at just $12 billion. By 2024, it reached $518 billion, a 40-fold increase. Today, China is the top trading partner for Brazil, Chile, Peru, Uruguay, Argentina, every major South American economy that matters. China has already displaced the United States. The infrastructure empire. In November 2024, China opened the port of Chancay in Peru, a $3.5 billion deep-water megaport, majority owned by a Chinese state company. It features autonomous cranes and can handle ships too large for the Panama Canal, a direct maritime corridor from Shanghai to South America. Voyage time cut from 35 days to 23. Shipping costs down 20%. China's ambassador called it the Shanghai of South America. Peru's transport minister wants it to become the Singapore of Latin America. And now China and Brazil are planning a railway from the Pacific to the Atlantic, a Chinese-controlled transcontinental corridor across South America, an alternative to the Panama Canal itself. The invisible empire. Then there's power. China's State Grid Corporation has invested over $12.5 billion in Brazil's electrical infrastructure. They control critical transmission lines feeding São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. If you live in Brazil's largest cities, there's a good chance your lights stay on because of Chinese infrastructure. By 2030, China plans another $40 billion. And then there's lithium. Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina hold 60% of the world's lithium reserves, the battery metal that powers the electric future. Without South American lithium, there is no American EV industry, no Tesla, no Ford, no GM. China has been locking it up. The Donroe Doctrine is dead to Washington. This looks like a strategic nightmare. A foreign power building a resource extraction empire in America's backyard. The Donroe Doctrine, the 200-year-old policy declaring the Western Hemisphere America's sphere, has been gutted. Not by tanks, by shipping containers. And Trump has decided that ends now. They don't call it the Donroe Doctrine anymore, Trump said after Maduro's capture. They call it the Donroe Doctrine. This wasn't bravado. It was a declaration. What the Donroe Doctrine really means. 1. The Western Hemisphere is priority 1. Trump's 2025 national security strategy devotes more pages to Latin America than to Europe or Asia. It explicitly labels China, Russia, and Iran as existential threats operating in America's backyard. The message, choose us or face consequences. 2. Economic coercion as policy. Trump's Liberation Day tariffs imposed a baseline 10% on all imports. But the real weapon is secondary sanctions. Countries trading with China face penalties. Trade with Beijing or trade with Washington. Pick one. Mexico has already folded. 3. Military force is on the table. Venezuela proved it. Trump expanded the Donroe Doctrine's scope from the Arctic to Antarctica. Military deployments now stretch across the Caribbean and Central America. Panama was given an ultimatum. Chinese control of canal ports is now being dismantled. 4. Carrot and stick diplomacy. Bolivia terminated Chinese lithium contracts. Argentina aligned fully with Washington. IMF credit lines replaced Chinese loans. The hemisphere is being sorted, dollar or yuan, ally or adversary. The flashpoints. Mexico is the front line. Brazil is the wild card. Argentina is the prize. Nicaragua is the nightmare. China is backing a proposed Nicaraguan supercanal, larger than Panama, beyond U.S. influence. If China loses Panama, it builds its own. Why China cannot walk away. China's economy depends on Latin American resources: Brazilian iron ore, Chilean copper, Bolivian lithium, Venezuelan oil. Cut those off, and Chinese manufacturing collapses. So Beijing will fight back. Hours after the Venezuela strike, China ran blockade drills around Taiwan. Message received: if America acts in its hemisphere, China will act in its own. The escalation trap. This is no single crisis. This is structural conflict, a slow-burn great power confrontation over the arteries of the global economy, a second Cold War, this time in America's backyard, Latin America, the battleground. For 20 years, Latin America played Washington and Beijing against each other. That era is over. Now they must choose. And Venezuela showed the cost of choosing wrong. Maduro is now in a Manhattan jail cell. Other leaders are watching. The ultimatums are coming. The pressure is rising. The tanks are not rolling. Not yet. But history tells us when great powers collide, small nations suffer. The final question. The Donroe Doctrine assumes America can win. But what if it's wrong? China is still building, still investing, still signing checks. America offers ideology. China offers concrete. And that may decide the future. The rules have changed. The game has changed. And Latin America is caught between two giants. The opening shots have been fired. The battle lines are drawn. The ghost of the Monroe Doctrine has risen. It has a new name now. And it's hungry.